let us all do we can to build a better future.
When I talk about a lot of issues with banks and student loans and paycheck protection loans, and mortgages on this show, a lot of the problems start with servicers. Well, the servicers are companies, they're not lenders. They're not actually lending the money. They are contracted by the lender or by the bank, whatever, to manage the loan. They're the ones who are setting people up with, they're doing some underwriting, they're setting people up with the account. They are managing things like payment plans. They are putting people into collections if they're not paying. And because these servicers are on really thin margins, they're not real motivated to accommodate consumer needs. And one of those servicers is Navient, or formerly Sallie Mae, which of course was managing for many, many years student loans in this country, was a servicer for that. Eventually, when President Obama came into office, he went to direct student loans only from the federal government, bypassing outside banks, but Navient continued to get some contracts. Well, apparently Navient has been basically manipulating the numbers, imagine that, and taking the federal government for a ride. What's happening at this point is that the former acting education secretary had ordered Navient to refund $22.3 million that it allegedly overcharged the education department more than a decade ago. Now, this stuff was being addressed a long time ago. It was one of the reasons why we went under the Obama administration to direct student loans rather than going through banks. But Sallie Mae, at that time was called Sallie Mae, denied any wrongdoing. Navient has been fighting it, but this is continuing to happen at this point. They've been fighting the fact that they were ripping off the government. They were actually just cooking the books and taking money that was not theirs. Now, things have gotten even more bizarre. Washington Post reported on this last week, but things have gotten more bizarre because 3 student loan borrowers have filed a suit, and they are asking that the courts force Navient into bankruptcy. So apparently, and I've read the complaint, which is quite entertaining, I might add. I read the complaint, and essentially what these borrowers are saying is they borrowed money in private loans to go to career schools. They'd all discharged their loans in bankruptcy. They believed that they had discharged these loans in bankruptcy, following the process for discharging student loans in bankruptcy, which, as I pointed out last week, can be done despite what people try to tell you. It's harder to do that, and it shouldn't be harder to do it, but it is possible. Apparently, Navient continued to go after them for these debts and owes these 3 people a total of over $45,000. What's going on at this point is that these individuals are saying that given all of the scandals surrounding this organization, this servicer, they are arguing that Navient is insolvent. And according to the calculations in the petition, now I'm not saying this is accurate, I'm saying this is what's in the petition, Navient has $87.4 billion in assets and $85 billion in liabilities. And in fact, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, back in 2017, right before it was actually the complaint was filed January 17th, 2017. So that you can consider that date there. That administration said that Navient had misappropriated $4 billion in government funds and wanted to get a summary judgment. So what these borrowers are saying is they want to get their money. They are convinced that if they're not put into an insolvency, Chapter 11 bankruptcy, that they're going to get lost in the shuffle. But by forcing them into bankruptcy, they'll be forced to reckon with their creditors, including these students who believe that they were unfairly treated by Navient and had money taken from them, even though they believe that their loans were taken care of in bankruptcy. So it's interesting because Navient is saying it's frivolous. The Austin Smith, the plaintiff's lawyer, has said, look, Navient may well dismiss this as this desperate act of a small-time plaintiff's lawyer, in that they would not be entirely wrong, but it is desperation born of years of battling an adversary who refuses to honor outcomes, refuses to obey the law, and refuses to acknowledge the psychological toll its actions are having on people. And this is making big news. I've been actually picking up this stuff in Westlaw, LexisNexis, I think Reuters has been reporting on it. So we don't have a lot of details right now, but if this small-time lawyer is correct in what he is saying, this could really rip open the flood. It would really rip open those floodgates into seeing just exactly what kind of shenanigans have been going on at this time. One of the things that he claims, and one of the things he's claiming, and I'm not saying this is accurate, but that in 2000, half the nation's wealth was tied up in unpaid student loan notes. So I mean, this is if half of what this guy is saying is true, we're just, we complain on this show about the bankruptcy issue, but this goes far, far deeper than that. We've got corrupt organizations who are repeatedly getting government contracts and destroying people's lives. And the government has noted this. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has noted this. One of the things that Navient and other student loan servicers have done is refused to assist people in getting the consumer protections that they are entitled to. They are required, if you have a federal loan, they are required to give you a payment plan that you can afford. That is not in question. And yet they won't do it. They have been known to lose paperwork. I've had to deal with it myself. They will repeatedly lose paperwork. I will have, and I would of course have, the certified mail numbers. They acknowledge that, you said this, it was delivered, but they've repeatedly done that in hopes of pushing people into more late fees, or in some cases, possibly defaulting. Because at that point, they can charge 30% of the student loan in collections. The private collection agencies can charge 30% on top of what is owed. They can do all of that. And they've been going after people, people have been going into these forgiveness programs where they make 10 years of payments while working in public service. They come back and say, okay, I'm applying for my forgiveness, which they are entitled to. And they said, oh, you were never actually put in that program.
Okay.
So this is what's been going on. If this is what it takes to expose what is happening, I'm all for it. I encourage folks to read and keep up with it. Again, it's a small-time lawsuit by a small-time lawyer, it sounds like, but something's going on here.
Yeah.
And
wow.
I just want to say that, so I would expect something like this, if it does go in a good direction, that this would lead to a precedent that other of these agencies are going to have to start dealing with, because there'll be court precedent. First of all, if this works, I think this guy will get a movie in 20 years. That's usually how it works out. Small-time lawyer does something good.
Yeah.
So I think that's going for him. But wouldn't it be nice if we were able to catch in the act these people that are screwing over Americans in such great numbers that are, just a $300, $400 a month payment is enough to cause people to not buy a house, not buy a car, not get married. So wouldn't it be really poetic if in America, of all countries, that not only was much of this not even accurate, much of it was fraudulent to begin with?
And, I just want to end it on this. We cannot forget that the architect for the student debt crisis is actually now the current occupant was in the White House, Joe Biden. And the thing is, this has been going on for a very long time. And, if right now this video is being shared on social media, we don't have it, but there's this girl who is crying because she doesn't have enough money to go to nursing school anymore. She's been working since she's been 16 years old. She's 32 now, and she's been working, yet she is in debt as well. There's also stories about, kids giving up their scholarships or using their grant money to help out their parents pay off their apartments or their loans or housing loans. And this is it's maddening that you have to pay an arm and a leg and so much more just to get a higher education. Whereas if you go to any other country, and I'm sure other countries have their fair share of problems too, but they don't have a thing called student debt.
Well, you also want to consider that The lenders themselves, now this is no longer the case for federal student loans because since I think 2009, it's all been direct, but the lenders themselves can hide behind the servicer. They can say, well, you know, these were the servicer's actions. They're contracting with unscrupulous servicers. And the servicers can do what they want, and the lenders, the organizations that made the decision to actually lend at interest, you know, they can step away from it. And so I think what you're seeing here is a distancing of people who are responsible for this. And so it said it'll be very interesting to see if this goes through. I'm looking forward also to seeing the response to the petition, which again was very amusing to read. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see if this guy's successful.
I think I would just, you know, throw in there that when these servicers screw up, you still get a bill.
Yeah.
And if you do everything right, you still get a bill. But if they screw up or they are unscrupulous or they're fraudulent, then it's really amazing how quickly it turns into, I don't know, it's not my fault, it's his fault over there, I know what you mean, I know what personal accountability is. Maybe the better thing we should do is we should just form corporations with student bodies of universities and discharge the debt into that corporation. I don't know. If they're able to do something like that, why not us?